Hello, thank you for joining the channel. In today's video, we want to examine passive voice in JAMB examination. So let's begin with the explanation of what passive voice is, and there's some examples. This will give us good background knowledge on how to approach questions that have to do with passive voice. Passive voice is a sentence construction in which the subject receives the action of the verb. It is usually formed with the verb to be. These verbs are am, is, was, are, were, be, been, and being. These are the 8 verbs to be. So these verbs are very important in the construction of passive sentences. I want you to note this. In this video, when I say passive voice or passive sentence, I mean the same thing. In our definition of passive voice, we said that passive voice is a sentence construction in which the subject receives the action of the verb. This is because in the normal active sentence construction, it is the object that receives the action of the verb. The subject is the performer of the action. Then the action, which is the verb, is received by the object. That is in the normal active voice. But in the passive voice, the object in the active voice that receives that action will now become the subject in the passive voice. Let's see example A for better understanding of this explanation. We sweep the classroom every morning. We sweep the classroom every morning. This is an active sentence. We is the subject. Sweep is the verb. The classroom is the object. Every morning is an adverbial. It's an adverbial phrase. The classroom, which is the object, receives the action of sweeping. This happens in the active voice. Now, in the passive sentence, in the passive voice, the classroom that receives that action of the verb now becomes the subject. It means the object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. I said that again. The object in the active voice becomes the subject in the passive voice. Therefore, in our passive sentence, it's going to become the classroom is swept by us every morning. The classroom is swept by us every morning. You will note that I put by us in bracket. That is because it is optional. That phrase is optional. By and the actor is optional. The sentence is complete without putting by us. The classroom is swept every morning. So the classroom, which is the object in the active voice, becomes the subject in the passive voice. Then we introduce our verb to be, is. The question now arises, how did we get is? Why not was? Why not am? Now, the table at the side of the screen will lead us to how to get the correct verb to be. From the table, we can see that present singular contains am, or is, is. We use am for the pronoun I, while we use is for other singular subjects in the present tense. The present plural is are. The singular past is was, while the plural past is were, were. So we use these 4 boxes when we are treating the simple present tense, the simple past tense, the present continuous tense, and the past continuous tense. The remaining 3 of the verb to be, been, B-E-E-N, is used when the sentence is in the perfect tense, while we use being, B-E-I-N-G, when the sentence is in the continuous tense. Then we use be, be, when we have a modal verb. We are going to have examples depicting each of what I just said, one after the other. All you need to do is to just sit down and follow this video accordingly. Do not fast forward. Do not skip. This will help you to understand every of my explanation and my example. And when it's time for us to answer the past questions, you will see that those questions are actually very simple. So let's go back to example A and see how we got our verb is. The classroom is swept by us every morning. How did we get the verb is? Now look at the new subject in the passive voice, the classroom. Is this singular or plural? It is singular. Now let's come back to our question in the active voice. We sweep the classroom every morning. The verb sweep, is it present tense or past tense? It is present tense. Now on the table, check for singular present. Singular present. What do you find there? Am or is? I told you the other time that am is used only for the pronoun I. So we use is. That's how we got our is. The classroom is. Now the verb in the active voice, sweep, now will be expressed in the past participle. What is the past participle of sweep? It becomes swept. That's how we got is swept. Then we put our agentive preposition by. So we change the subject of that sentence, we, to the object pronoun, the object of the preposition, us, by us, every morning. That's how we come about our answer in example A. Let's go to example B. She sells onions. She sells onions. Onions is plural. It's a plural noun. So we look at the verb in the active sentence, sells. It is present tense. On this table, we check plural present. Which verb do we have there? Onions are sold by her. That is the passive form. You can see that the verb be that we use in the passive sentence is determined by the subject of the passive sentence. That is the object of the active sentence now becomes the subject of the passive sentence, and it is this new subject that determines the verb. If this new subject is singular, the verb is going to be singular, as in example A. And if it is plural, the verb is going to be plural, as in example B. Onions are sold by her. We must also note that the tense does not change. The tense of the active sentence is also the tense of the passive sentence. Now, in these examples that we've given so far, our active sentences are in the present tense, and so is our passive sentences. Although the passive sentences may look as if they are not in the present tense, because the lexical verb is expressed in past participle. But that is not the case. What we are going to be looking at to determine the tense is the verb be. In example A, the verb be is, is. That is a present tense verb. In example B, the verb be is are. That is in the present tense. So in every passive sentence, the lexical verb, that is the verb that carries the meaning, must always be expressed in the past participle. Even though the sentence is in present tense, or is in past tense, or is in present continuous tense, the lexical verb is going to be expressed in the past participle. So, going back to example A, where we have the passive, the classroom is swept by us every morning. Even though we have the verb swept in this sentence, that does not mean that this sentence is in past tense or past participle. The sentence is in present tense because of the verb is. Let's go to example C and example D. These ones are in the simple past tense. Example C says, Stephen broke my bottles. Stephen broke my bottles. As you can see, broke. This is in the past tense. Let's change this to passive voice. Now we begin with the object of the active voice. My bottles. My bottles, this is a plural noun. So, and we look at the verb in the active voice, broke, past tense. On this table, we check plural past. What is the verb be that we have there? Were. So we add were. My bottles were. Now the verb broke. in the active sentence, we look for the past participle, and that is broken. My bottles were broken by Stephen. My bottles were broken by Stephen. Example D. The girls sang a melodious hymn. The girls sang a melodious hymn. Let's change it to passive. A melodious hymn. This is a singular noun. One hymn. A melodious hymn. Singular. Now, let's come back to the active sentence. The girls sang. Sang is in past tense. So we look for the singular past on this table. And that is was. A melodious hymn was. Now, let's go back to the lexical verb, sang. What is the past participle of the verb sing? The past participle is sang. So it becomes a melodious hymn was sung by the girls. Let's go straight to example E and F. These two examples are in the present continuous tense. Example E. The police are investigating me. In this kind of sentence, we have the continuous verb investigating, a verb in ing form. That means in our passive sentence, we are going to have the verb be in ing form. We are going to have two verb be. The first one is like the ones we have been using before, like the ones on the table. After that, we are going to have the verb be in ing form to represent the lexical verb in ing form. So it becomes I am being. The verb investigating is now going to be expressed in the past participle. I am being investigated by the police. Note that although we have investigated in this sense is the past participle, not the past tense. What makes it look like this is the fact that investigate is a regular verb. There is no difference between the past tense and the past participle. They all have ed. So in this kind of sentence, investigated is in the past participle. I am being investigated by the police. Example F. Rachel is grinding the millet. Rachel is grinding the millet. We begin with the object, the millet. The millet is singular. Is grinding is present tense. So we look for singular present. It is. The millet is. Then grinding, we introduce the verb be in ing form. The millet is being. We then put the past participle of grind, which is ground. The millet is being ground by Rachel. Straight to example G and H. These ones are in the past continuous tense. Musa was hunting birds. Musa was hunting birds. We begin with the object of that sentence, which is birds. Birds is a plural noun. Was hunting is past tense. So we look for plural past, which is were. Birds were. Then because we have hunting in ing form, we introduce the verb be in ing form. Birds were being. Then the past participle of hunt is hunted. Birds were being hunted by Musa. Let's go to example H. You were painting your room. You were painting your room. Your room is singular. Were painting is past tense. Let's look for singular past. That is was. Then painting, because it is in ing form, let's introduce the verb be in ing form. Being. Your room was being. Then paint, the past participle of paint, painted. Your room was being painted by you. Let's go to example I. Example I is in the present perfect tense. In the present perfect tense. In this case, we do not need the information on the table because we are using the verb have or has. Example I. We have swept our classroom. We have swept our classroom. The passive sentence becomes our classroom has been swept. But there's one thing you have to note. In the active sentence, we have, but in the answer, in the passive sentence, we have has. Why? That is because the subject in the active sentence is plural. Therefore, we have the verb plural, have. We have. But now in the passive sentence, the new subject is singular because it is one classroom. So we have the singular form of have, which is has. That's why we have our classroom has been swept by us. Straight to Example J. Example J is in the past perfect tense. She had eaten bread before you came. She had eaten bread before you came. To change it to the passive form, bread had been eaten by her before you came. The passive voice in the past perfect tense is very simple. That is because we usually have the verb had, and we don't change it. Had in the active voice is also repeated as had in the passive voice. At this juncture, I want to apologize for the way I'm sounding. My voice is terribly bad, but then I just have to make the class. Okay, let's go to the next example. To example K. Here we are talking about passive and the modal verbs. Wike can drive lorries. That is the active sentence. Wike can drive lorries. It becomes lorries can be driven by Wike. In this case, we do not change the modal verb. The same modal verb that we have in the active sentence is repeated in the passive sentence. No change, no modification. If it is can, we also use can in the passive voice. If it is might in the active voice, we're also going to repeat might in the passive voice. If it is should that we have in the active voice, we are going to repeat the same should, the same modal verb in the passive voice. No changes. Like in example L, he might not see the ghost. He might not see the ghost. The passive sentence becomes the ghost might not be seen by him. Example M, you should wash your sandals. You should wash your sandals. In passive voice, it changes to your sandals should be washed by you. Your sandals should be washed by you. Now that we have covered passive voice in different tenses, let's see some related JAMB past questions. The first question we have here is question 45, UTME 2024. The touts dash arrested during the riot. The touts dash arrested during the riot. A, where. B, was. C, where. D, is. For us to be able to answer this question correctly, we must take a look at the subject of the sentence. Is it singular or plural? The touts, tout with a letter S, it is plural. Now, all of the sentence, is it in the present tense or past tense? Look at the adverbial of time, during the riot. This shows that this event has happened in the past. The sentence is in the past tense. Now we check our table. Plural subject, touts. Plural past. What do we have? Where. W-E-R-A. That means option A is our correct option. The touts were arrested during the riot. To the second question, question 34, UTME 2024. How many eggs were dashed by the hen? How many eggs were dashed by the hen? A, laid. B, laid. L-A-Y-E-D. C, laid. L-A-I-D. D, laying. From our knowledge of the passive sentence, we already said it that the lexical verb will always be in the past participle. So the question is, what is the past participle of lay? L-A-Y, to lay eggs. Well, we must know that this particular verb is one of the most confusing verbs in English language because we often confuse it with the verb lie, that is to rest oneself in horizontal position. I once made a video differentiating these verbs. I'm going to leave the link of this video in this video's description or at the top right corner of this particular video so you can check it out. From that video, we already know that the past participle of lay, L-A-Y, is L-A-I-D, laid. That makes option C our correct option. How many eggs were laid by the hen? The next question is question 76, UME 1982. The catering manageress sought to eat that the morning meal dash by 7:00 hours every day. The catering managers saw to it that the morning meal dash by 7:00 hours every day. A. Is prepared. B. Used to prepare. C. Has been prepared. D. Was prepared. E. Used to be prepared. From this sentence, let's look at the sentence again. The catering managers saw. You can see that verb saw. That is what the simple past tense. That means our passive verb as well is going to be in the simple past tense, because the meal is singular meal. So it's going to be singular past. On the table, singular past is was. And then the verb prepare in past participle becomes prepared. Was prepared. That is option D. The catering managers saw to it that the morning meal was prepared by 7:00 hours every day. Let's move to the next question. That is question 75, UME 1982. In the past 20 years, many patients dash by the doctors in the specialist hospital. In the past 20 years, many patients dash by the doctors in the specialist hospital. A. Are treated. B. Were loved to treat. C. Have been treated. D. Treated. E. Have treated. Looking at this particular sentence, there is an adverbial of time in the past 20 years. That is, the speaker was talking in relation to the present. Then we are going to use the present perfect tense, and that is option C, have been treated. In the past 20 years, many patients have been treated by the doctors in the specialist hospital. To the next question, that is question 52, UME 1982. The evidence of all the accused persons dashed by the judge sitting at number 2 as is this last week. The evidence of all the accused persons dashed by the judge sitting at number 2 as it is last week. A. Were disbelieved. B. Was disbelieved. C. Is disbelieved. D. Are disbelieved. E. Has been disbelieved. This question is a combination of passive question and concord question. First of all, let's look at the last two words in the question. Last week. Last week. That shows that the sentence is in past tense. Now let's come to the subject of the sentence. The evidence of all the accused persons. Although the persons are in plural, but the evidence is singular. The evidence, singular. That means we are looking for the verb of singular past. And that is was. Let's check the table. Singular past, was. So the correct option is option B, was disbelieved. The evidence of all the accused persons was disbelieved by the judge sitting at number 2 as it is last week. Let's move to the next question. Question 64, UME 1982. His English was so good that he dashed for an Englishman. His English was so good that he dashed for an Englishman. A. Took. B. Is taken. C. Was taken. D. Has taken. E. Is taken. His English was, underline that particular word, was, that is past tense, was so good that he. Now, the sentence is in past tense because of the was. Then he, before the verb, is singular. If you check the table for singular past, we are going to have was as well. Then take in past participle, that is taken. Then we have was taken. Option C. His English was so good that he was taken for an Englishman. To the next question, that is question 63, UME 1981. The policeman stopped me. and I dashed to the police station. The policeman stopped me and I dashed to the police station. A was taken. B took. C am taken. D will be taken. E walk. Now let's come to the question again. The policeman stopped me. Stopped, that is past tense. That shows that whatever happened has happened in the past tense. Then let's look at the subject of our passive sentence. I dashed to the police station. I is the subject. I is singular. If you check the table, singular past, that is was. Singular past is was. Then the past participle of take is taken. That makes option A our correct option, was taken. The policeman stopped me and I was taken to the police station. Now to the last question. We have question 63, UME 1980. 1980. Will they sign any contract at the fair? But let's look at the sentence. Look at the question. Will. That makes option E our correct option. But a lot of goods will be bought well. Will be bought. So it's been a very long video. Thank you for sticking to the video to this present moment. Even though my voice is very bad, but then it shouldn't deter us. It shouldn't stop us from doing what we are supposed to do. Remember to subscribe to the channel, drop a nice comment and share this video. Thank you. See you some another time. Bye-bye.